Welcome back, everyone. Happy New Year. James Gunn just announced that they had delayed the Batman 2 movie for a couple big reasons. Wouldn't totally reveal everything that's going on behind the scenes, but at the same time, he also revealed a first look at his new Batman that's meant to be the version who will show up in the Batman Brave and the Bold movie. Said he'd cross over with David Corenswet's Superman and be in the new version of his Justice League, and talked about what's going on with that version of the character just in general. So there's been a lot of theories about the real reason the Batman 2 movie keeps getting delayed. It's already been delayed twice now, and not small delays either. Each time it was a really big delay, leading a lot of people to think that maybe what's really going on behind the scenes is that James Gunn is just planning on eventually bringing Robert Pattinson into the DCU in Warner Brothers corporate, like the powers that be. His bosses don't want to have two different versions of Batman in different movies at the same time. Because early on, James Gunn did say that when he took over DC, he was considering doing that. So we'll break it all down. There's a bunch of stuff going on. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. This is also one of the reasons why you've been seeing so much fan art of World's Finest with his Batman and David Corenswet's Superman. Some of the fan edits are actually really good. Now that he started revealing Superman, some of the big new characters that he's introducing in the DCU, we're starting to get to the whole Batman of it all, because he's like the other big piece of this, like the most popular character in the world, according to James Gunn. Also his favorite character of all time, and that includes all of his Marvel movies too. Like, he loves Batman more than all the Marvel characters that he's done. But if you didn't see the news, Matt Reeves' The Batman 2 movie has been delayed for a second time. Now it's coming out in October 2027. Originally, it was supposed to come out in 2025. We were about to get the new Superman movie and the new Batman movie in the same year. It would have been amazing. Then they delayed the Batman 2 to 2026, claiming that Matt Reeves was taking too long to finish the script, and just recently, James Gunn did that again, delaying it another year, and the only thing he said was that Matt Reeves still had not turned in a finished script yet. This is what Matt Reeves said about that.
You know, I just asked you how it's going with writing, and you said slow because you care so much.
It's wonderful, except for the speed of getting something done.
Basically, it's him copying to writing at a George R. R. Martin pace. All the Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire book fans out there looking at all the Batman fans, asking if this is their first time dealing with someone who works at a snail's pace. Just ask one of them when The Winds of Winter is going to come out. Typically, most big movies like this give writers about 6 months to get a shooting script done. That's a version of the script that the director or the producers feel like is good enough to actually start filming the movie, and during the filming process, they just continue to refine the script as they go. When James Gunn took over DC and started to reboot everything, he said he vowed to change this practice. He's like, no, we are not going to film anything until there is an absolutely finished script. He also said he was going to let Elseworlds movies happen, and he would let Matt Reeves still do his Batman movies in a self-contained universe, and he wasn't going to force him to make Robert Pattinson cross over with all the other characters. Probably the other best recent example of a Batman director who took a long time between sequels was Christopher Nolan during the Dark Knight trilogy. He took 3 years between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, and then 4 years between that and The Dark Knight Rises. And I remember at the time, most people thought that that was an incredibly long amount of time. But while this was all going on, there were a lot of people claiming that Matt Reeves isn't actually having trouble writing the movie itself. Like, he's a totally fine writer, great director, but what's really going on is that he's having a lot of personal problems that are just keeping him from fully focusing on finishing the script. On top of that, there's the whole issue with James Gunn's Batman that he just teased during Creature Commandos. So this is meant to be the canon DCU Batman, first official look at a living version of Batman. He was dead a couple episodes ago, so like technically we did see a version of him before this, but this is the first living example of the character. James Gunn talked a lot about it right after he teased this.
When they first gave it to me, we saw a lot more Batman. So yeah, that's just a way to introduce that Batman is a part of this universe. He's an important part of this universe, and we're gonna do great things with him. He's the most popular superhero in the world, and I can't wait for people to see more of him, along with Superman, and together.
Notice he also teased some Superman, Batman, World's Finest action during that too. His new Justice League movie isn't going to happen for a long time, so we will see the new Batman, new Superman show up together on screen before Justice League happens. A lot of people saw this preview and they were assuming that because of the way this Batman looks, way bigger, way taller, bulkier than Robert Pattinson's Batman, and his Batman suit looks like a totally different design language than Robert Pattinson's suit, that this is not meant to be Robert Pattinson, and James Gunn is planning for it to be a totally different actor. He kind of looks like he's in the blue and gray suit. He looks like he's wearing Batman trunks from the comics, like Superman and Batman both wearing trunks in James Gunn's DCU. The ears on his Batman cowl look way shorter than Robert Pattinson's Batman suit. I would say the whole vibe of the character, like the look, the build, looks way more inspired by Ben Affleck's Batman in his Batman costume than any other version of Batman. Like imagine Ben Affleck's Batman but with the trunks and that's it. That's the only change. You also have to remember a little while ago, there was a CW executive claiming that the reason why Warner Brothers canceled Superman and Lois TV show was because they didn't want to have multiple versions of the big Justice League characters at the same time in the movies and on screen. That would also imply that they only want one version of Batman in the movies at any given time. And the only way for James Gunn to make that happen, because he wants his own Batman Brave and the Bold movie, Andy Muschietti literally just went on screen talking about it, saying that it had been delayed a little bit, but they're still planning on making it. The only way for this to all work, if Warner Brothers only wants one Batman, is if James Gunn either stops the Matt Reeves Batman movies after the Batman 2, and that's the last one they make in that universe, then brings Robert Pattinson into the DCU as the new main Batman going forward. Or he lets them make the Batman 2, then quietly fires Robert Pattinson in the nicest way possible if he doesn't want to come into the DCU. Then casts his own Batman with a different actor. So this is probably what's going to happen the next couple of years. Remember, the Batman 2 coming out October 2027 right now. Until then, James Gunn will probably just continue teasing his Batman the way that he did in Creature Commandos. Like you'll see him in silhouette, characters will reference him verbally on screen, you'll hear people talk about him a lot. They'll let you know that Batman is active in the universe in other upcoming DC movies, but you won't actually see his face on screen, like you'll just see shadows in the background at times. And James Gunn will wait till after the Batman 2 comes out in theaters and give Matt Reeves a chance to make a good movie and see how much money it makes. So if the Batman 2 does gangbusters and makes a crazy amount of money, then he will try to bring Robert Pattinson into the DCU. Or if Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson still don't want to have anything to do with the DCU, then he'll let them continue to make their movies, assuming that they make a ton of money on the Batman 2, and he'll just wait even longer to introduce the DCU Batman and just continue delaying Batman Brave and the Bold. But if the Batman 2 just makes okay money, like if it just does fine by their standards, that's still a lot of money. Like fine by their standards for a Batman movie is still a lot of money. But if it just does okay by Warner Brothers standards, then they'll also quietly stop making the Matt Reeves Batman movies and recast with a brand new DCU Batman actor. So really what James Gunn is doing, like his long-term plan here, is to delay, wait till like the last possible minute to see how much money they make with the Matt Reeves Batman, Robert Pattinson, before making any real big decisions. This is why you see people out there saying that in a couple years, James Gunn might just come out and say, by the way, we're just going to make Robert Pattinson the main Batman. Personally, I would be totally fine with them recasting. Like I was talking about Reacher Batman, just because this Batman teaser that James Gunn released for Creature Commandos kind of looks like a version of Alan Ritchson. So like Reacher Batman would not be that bad, even though he's probably not going to be cast as the new Batman. If they do recast, I'm expecting more of a David Corenswet type of twist, where it's an actor that you're not super familiar with, but who has a lot of experience. One of the other important things about that Batman teaser in the recent Creature Commandos episode is James Gunn said that originally when they brought it to him, they're like, check this out, is this okay for us to tease this Batman in this way? He actually said that originally there was way more Batman that you saw, like you saw his costume, it was very well lit, and he said that he wasn't ready to commit to that at this point. Like he didn't want to be locked in to a particular Batman design yet. So he had them pull back, and that's why you only see his silhouette. And one of the other interesting details is that he actually did the Creature Commandos series and a lot of the animation before he'd been hired by DC to reboot everything. So originally, I think the Creature Commandos was designed to be more connected to the DCEU, so that's probably why this Batman looks more like Ben Affleck's Batman, because originally it was probably supposed to be Ben Affleck's Batman. But by the time they were finishing the episodes, he'd been hired by DC to reboot everything, and it turned into the DCU, so it was going to be the new version of Batman, and they probably tweaked the animation so they could say that this is the DCU Batman. So if you think it looks a lot like Ben Affleck's Batman, that's probably why, because originally it probably started life being Ben Affleck's Batman, and then just changed to the DCU Batman. But like I said, until the Batman 2 comes out in theaters, just expect more of this type of treatment from James Gunn when he starts talking about the Batman character in general. One of those situations where he talks a lot about Batman without really telling you anything specific or telling you which actor it's going to be or what his costume is going to look like exactly. All just to stall for time to give Matt Reeves time to make his Batman 2 with Robert Pattinson and see whether or not that is successful. My assumption is that it will make a ton of money and it will come down to the wire. Like, it'll all depend on whether or not Robert Pattinson really wants to show up in the next 10 years worth of DC movies. Also probably will depend on the size of the dump truck of money that they back up to his house. I mentioned this in my last video too, but James Gunn said that his Batman is going to have Damian Wayne, and Damian Wayne will have already become Robin during that, so it'll be like a 40-something Batman. By the time he'd be ready to actually make that Batman Brave and the Bold movie, like a couple years after the Batman 2 comes out, Robert Pattinson will basically be that older Batman. Robert Pattinson in real life will have just naturally aged up to be that slightly older 40-something Batman. So everybody let me know in the comments, do you want him to just bring Robert Pattinson into the DCU, or would you rather see another actor? Personally, I think most people commenting on the videos, like the really active Batman fans, want to see somebody new, but there's also a lot of people out there that just want them to bring Robert Pattinson into the DCU, like just do the simple thing and bring Robert Pattinson in. Generally, I think there are several actors out there that can pull off a great Batman family version of Batman, like a Batman that has Damian Wayne and is like a little bit older but not very old, and will have good chemistry with David Corenswet, the other Justice League actors, which is like the really important thing too. Whoever they do wind up using as the new Batman has to have great chemistry with Superman and the other characters. But we have the Creature Commandos finale next week, and the next real big DC series I'll be doing episode videos for will be for the Green Lantern series in a little while, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that stuff. Everybody click here for that brand new Batman teaser and watch James Gunn talk all about it, and click here for all my brand new Superman videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.